We're starting with the dumbest myth that people surprisingly believe, the spider myth. You've probably heard that you swallow 8 spiders per year while sleeping. That's very untrue. But here's what's really wild. This fact was literally invented to prove how stupid people are. Back in 1993, a columnist named Lisa Holst was writing about fake news spreading online, so she made up this spider statistic as an obvious example of lies people would believe. Her little experiment worked spectacularly, and her fake fact became one of the most repeated facts in human history. Think about this for 2 seconds. Spiders can detect your breathing and heartbeat from across the room. They're basically tiny ninjas that run away from sleeping humans. Your mouth, when you're asleep, it's like a desert wasteland they're never going to visit. But here's the insane part. This made-up statistic has been cited in nature documentaries, science textbooks, and repeated by actual scientists. One woman's experiment to prove stupidity actually worked for 30 years. The next myth is one you probably believe and has cost some people their lives. Coming in at number 7 is the missing person 24-hour rule. Every cop show says you have to wait 24 hours before reporting someone missing. That's not only wrong, but it is literally getting people killed. When someone gets kidnapped, their survival chances drop by 50% after just 3 hours. But families sit at home thinking they need to wait an entire day because some TV writer made up this rule for dramatic effect. The FBI has an entire web page dedicated to debunking this myth because it's such a deadly problem. Real cops hate this more than anything. They're constantly dealing with families who waited too long because Hollywood lied to them. Here's what's really messed up. This 24-hour rule exists purely because TV writers needed a reason why characters couldn't just call the police immediately. It makes for better television, but it's created this piece of killer information that's been repeated for decades. Police departments want you to call the second you're genuinely worried. There's no waiting period at all. Even minutes count. And that 24-hour rule is just a Hollywood fiction that somehow became accepted as law. When I mention the next myth, I bet you'll be shocked that it's actually a myth and not a fact. Number 6 takes us to the myth that says we only use 10% of our brains. You've heard humans only use 10% of their brains. This myth is so popular that Hollywood made movies about people taking magic pills and suddenly solving quantum physics while doing backflips. Your brain is already going full throttle 24/7. Scientists can watch brains light up in real time and they see activity everywhere, all the time. Even when you're sleeping, your brain is controlling breathing, managing heartbeat, and replaying embarrassing memories from middle school. Here's the crazy part. Your brain uses 20% of your body's energy despite being only 2% of your weight. If 90% were really doing nothing, evolution would have removed it millions of years ago. Nature doesn't keep useless junk around. This myth has created a $60 billion brain training industry, selling products to unlock your unused brain power. Companies are making billions selling solutions to a problem that doesn't exist. The original quote came from a 1900s researcher who said people don't live up to their full potential. Someone twisted that into we only use 10% physically, and now we have people buying brain pills to access their imaginary unused brain space. The next myth is both funny and shocking. At number 5, we have the myth that says shaving makes hair thicker. You've heard that shaving makes hair grow back thicker and darker, right? Complete nonsense. When you shave, you're giving each hair a flat-top haircut. The blunt end feels rougher than the natural tapered tip, but it's the exact same hair. Scientists have studied this for decades. Shaving has zero effect on hair growth. Your genes control thickness, color, and growth rate. That razor isn't reprogramming your DNA. If shaving really made hair thicker, every bald guy would be shaving daily. We'd have cured baldness with a $3 disposable razor. But some billionaires are still bald despite having unlimited razor money. Women spend $10 billion annually on hair removal, partly because of this fear. This myth from 1928 has been making companies rich for almost a century. The stubble feels thicker because you've created thousands of tiny hair stumps instead of natural tapers. Same hair, different end shape. The next myth on our list made us falsely believe a smart fish has no memory. Number 4. The goldfish 3-second rule. Everyone says goldfish have 3-second memories, but these fish are actually way smarter than most people think. Scientists have put goldfish in mazes, and not only do they solve them, but they also remember the solutions months later. That's right, these little swimmers can recall how to navigate complex paths after a long time. Goldfish can even recognize human faces. Your goldfish knows you're the food person versus a stranger walking by. They remember who brings the snacks and who doesn't, which shows a level of memory most people don't expect from such a tiny brain. Beyond that, goldfish can learn tricks, swimming through hoops or even playing soccer. Some can even tell different songs apart, responding differently depending on the tune playing. Studies prove goldfish remember things for at least 3 months. They're constantly processing information, forming memories, and learning from their experiences, all with brains smaller than peas. So, where did the 3-second memory myth come from? Most likely, it started because people wanted to feel better about keeping such intelligent animals confined to tiny bowls with little stimulation. But goldfish are far too smart for the treatment they usually get. In fact, they can become bored or even depressed without enough mental stimulation. So, next time you see a goldfish swimming lazily in a bowl, remember it's not just a forgetful pet. It's a creature capable of learning, remembering, and even getting bored, just like much bigger-brained animals. The next myth is one that has been proven false over and over again. Coming in at number 3 is the lightning never strikes twice myth. Ever heard that lightning never strikes the same place twice? That's actually a myth. Take the Empire State Building, for example. It gets hit by lightning about 100 times every single year. That's right, lightning loves striking the same tall objects over and over again. There was even a park ranger named Roy Sullivan who earned the nickname Human Lightning Rod after being struck 7 different times and surviving every single one. His coworkers started avoiding him during storms because, well, lightning seemed to have a personal grudge against him. Lightning rods work because lightning does strike the same spot multiple times. They're designed to attract lightning bolts, safely directing the electricity to the ground to protect buildings and people. Here's something even more terrifying. Lightning can strike miles away from storms. These are called bolts from the blue, because they come out of clear blue skies with no warning. So you could be standing outside on a perfectly sunny day and suddenly get struck by lightning from a storm that's miles away. It's a scary reminder that lightning is unpredictable and always dangerous, no matter how clear the sky looks. The next myth started as propaganda, and to this day, people still believe it. Number 2, Napoleon was short. The idea that Napoleon was a tiny guy is not true. Actually, that's a big misconception. Napoleon Bonaparte stood around 5 foot 7 inches tall, which, believe it or not, was actually taller than the average Frenchman of his era. So, how did this myth that he was a short, angry little man get started? It mainly boils down to a mix of confusing measurement systems and some masterful British propaganda. Back in Napoleon's time, the French inch and the British inch weren't exactly the same length, which caused some early confusion in recorded heights. But the real twist was the British propaganda machine. During the Napoleonic Wars, the British desperately needed to paint their enemy as small and weak to boost their own morale and justify the long conflict. They dubbed him the Little Corporal, a nickname that was meant to belittle him even though it was originally a term of affection used by his own soldiers. This propaganda worked so well that it stuck around for centuries. Even today, many people picture Napoleon as a tiny, short-tempered man overcompensating for his height with military conquests and ambition. The truth? Napoleon's stature had nothing to do with his drive for success. He was a brilliant strategist, a charismatic leader, and one of history's most influential figures. And finally, we have the myth that Coca-Cola used to be green. Coca-Cola was never green. It has been caramel-colored since day one in 1886. This myth started because early Coke bottles were green glass, not because the liquid was green. The Coca-Cola Company has officially debunked this so many times that they probably have a template response. This fake fact appears in thousands of trivia lists because it sounds interesting enough to share. People love spreading weird facts about famous brands. The problem is, this particular fact is completely made up. but it's more interesting than the boring truth that Coke has always looked exactly like it does today. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and check out the channel for more videos.